Ucha Seneb, and welcome to the Ra'ama Hetep Men podcast show, powered by the Maā Sa Society. In this podcast, we'll discuss the Maā Sa philosophy, the age of Aquarius consciousness, culture, and the restoration of spiritual authority in your everyday life. Today's conversation, we're going to discuss vitality of self, what is wealth, as we are functioning within the lunar cycle of what we call Chefa. And Chefa governs what we place a high value in. All right. And what material things we place a high value in and their relationship to our success. You know, as we continue to go down this path of fighting racism, ending racism, and of course, as you've listened to us for a while, you've seen that we found our foundational premise of truly overcoming racism is developing self-agency, the ability to do for self. And I'm not talking about from an economic standpoint. I'm talking about the ability to manage ourselves. And no greater place are you able to manage yourself is through your health and wellness, through your vitality and vigor. You see, the diminishment of your vitality and vigor puts you at the mercy of the systems and the people that runs them systems. As a matter of fact, a major way that self-agency is expressed, self-agency is understood, is through you having governorship over your health, your vitality, your vigor. The reason why we don't consider its importance in our life, we don't consider it like China, we don't consider it like India, it's because A, we haven't been trained to see it that way, and B, because we have been trained to shift or place a high value in the material things of this world, things that have been conditioned within us to drive pleasure, to drive a sense of accomplishment, to drive a sense of worth, has been placed on things outside of us. And that in and of itself has put us in a position where we are diminishing ourselves, thus putting ourselves in position of deep dependence and servitude, thus making us susceptible to racism. The common way that we approach racism today is to fight against racism, when the greatest way to diminish racism in your life is to create self-agency within yourself that puts you in a position where you are no longer in need of the systems of servitude that have been projected upon you. But no greater way that we are able to experience this but through our vitality and vigor. So our conversation today is vitality of self. What is wealth? You can be enslaved by how you place high value in material things outside of yourself. So now the material things outside of us have a greater importance than our own well-being. Our drive for pleasure, sex, diet, and many other things, we place a high value on that expressing itself to material things than the value we place on the execution of pleasure and its impact upon our vitality and vigor. In the Kemetic scripture, in our version of the Genesis story, it says man and woman fell on the things of earth, the very things that were placed there for your empowerment. You see, everything outside of you that you can experience, everything outside of self that you can experience is there for your empowerment. See, the execution of pleasure is there for your empowerment. See, you guys think that pleasure is the foundation of enjoyment, and you have pleasure, that pleasure is satiated. Now you're in a state of enjoyment, you're in a state of happiness. But no, the execution of pleasure is actually a process of increasing your vitality and vigor. Therefore, the material things that are able to drive your pleasure or sense of pleasure that you may consume, or in multiple ways, right? You know, when you're intimate with someone, you're consuming their energy. When you're purchasing things based on them making you happy, you're consuming that energy. And of course, when you're eating food, you're consuming the food. So pleasure, these material things that you accumulate are supposed to serve the needs of your vitality and vigor. And through the process of pleasure, or the consumption through pleasure, we are supposed to increase our vitality and vigor. But that's not how we are programmed today. We're programmed to find happiness in things in and of themselves. In a man, in a woman, in a car, in houses and things of that nature, without driving home the reality that what you accumulate in abundance should empower you. We've been trained to simply having possession of these things is not only the root of happiness, but it's what determines life success. So when the scripture says man and woman fell on the things of earth, and therefore as a result of that, they fell into ignorance. They forgot about Ma'at, fell into ignorance, and therefore now they experience pain, suffering, and all these other things. Because as the scripture says, it says anything outside of you is there for your empowerment. Sex is there for your empowerment. Food is there for your empowerment. Anything outside of you should be accumulated for your empowerment, not accumulated as a basis of your happiness. I was reading an article earlier today where the article was talking about Atlanta, and it was talking about the tremendous amount of HIV cases there, and how, you know, approximately 75% of those cases are, you know, of African-American people or black people. And I thought that was a huge number. And I'm not going to get into any details about how that number could have came about, but I will say that the only way that number could come about is because we have what? Fell to the things of earth. The accumulation of material things, quote unquote, sex is one of them. In the name of sex itself, not understanding that sex can empower and destroy, not understanding that your execution of pleasure can empower and destroy. The quickest way for you to be destroyed is through sex. It's through how you drive your pleasure. And sex is a major piece of how you drive your pleasure. So for civilization, if a group of people wanted to kill you off or, you know, diminish the population or whatever, the quickest way to do that is to diminish your vitality and vigor through your execution of, through your operation of sex. So when you see numbers like that, when you know that people know those numbers out there, when you know that people, that is a risk out there, and you still see the numbers climbing, it is because people have failed to the things of earth. It's because the act of sex has become more important, more satiating than the vitality of self. The pleasure of sex is more important than the stability of self, than stability of community. That's when you know that the value has been shifted. You find more value in the things of earth versus the value of the power or the vitality of spirit, and how that will drive you into great success, not only in this life, but in the life to come. Let's look at an example. Let's look at, for instance, relationships now. And, you know, not all black women think like this, but there is a growing understanding, if you will, of women placing a high value into money and things and the lifestyle that the money and things can bring. So they place a high value on those things. And as a result, they look for men who can simply provide them with that lifestyle, but they have very little value in the man himself. So therefore, they don't have a high value in the continuity of the relationship, what the relationship can do for them, what the relationship can do for their increase in empowerment. Like the scriptures say, everything outside of you is for your empowerment. Your relationship with a person is for your empowerment. So they don't care about the fact that empowerment is a necessary thing. They only care about the lifestyle that can come through the relationship. So it just so happens that we have close to a 90% single mother household in our community right now, where it's driving home many of the social problems that we experience today, simply because the value has shifted to the money, cars, and things that can be driven through specific relationships. So we pass on relationships that are quote unquote good for us, right? You can take a relationship, build that relationship, connect to that relationship, grow through that relationship, and that relationship can eventually together grow into $1 million business. But no, we don't have a value in the relationship itself anymore. We place more value in the money, cars, and things that we can get through the relationship. Therefore, we don't care who we date. We can date a person who's quote unquote a criminal. We can date a person who is immoral. We can date a person who is scamming and doing things to get money, simply to purchase a lifestyle that has been deemed by that woman as her source, as her foundation of success. So therefore, in that regard, we can only experience pain and suffering as a result. And that's exactly what the scripture says. When you fall to the things of earth, you fall into ignorance. You forget about Ma'at. And therefore, if you're forgetting about Ma'at and you're manifesting in this world, you can only manifest in pain, suffering, poverty, and all the stuff the misery that we're experiencing in the Black community at this moment. You see, the thing about Ma'at is this. Ma'at is supreme intelligence. Ma'at with a T is the organization of all things according to the supreme intelligence. You see, the supreme intelligence has organized all things into a way intelligently so that we can all have our experiences and therefore drive our experience towards knowledge of self. But also at the same time, it's built outside of how we feel. It doesn't adapt to how we feel. It doesn't change to how we feel. So therefore, we are expressing ourselves within the supreme intelligence, driving outcomes. When you are manifesting in a supreme intelligence that is organized intelligently, and you find your freedom of choice within this intelligence, the outcomes you drive are either going to be categorized as benevolence or producing prosperity, abundance, and harmony, or they're going to manifest malevolently, producing poverty, suffering, and misery. When you're functioning within intelligence, your choice is put up on the altar, is weighed, and your future experience is the result of your choice you make within this supreme intelligence. So the question is, your choice. I don't care if you're a good person. I don't care if you're ignorant. There's no such thing as being ignorant of Ma'at. There's no such thing as being, right? You are making choices. It doesn't matter if your mom wasn't there for you, your dad wasn't there for you. It doesn't matter if somebody put crack cocaine in your neighborhood. It doesn't matter if they put guns purposely in your neighborhood. It doesn't matter if you don't have enough resources for your school, your education. It don't matter if the system that you exist within is prejudiced. It doesn't matter if you don't get enough funds for health and wellness. It doesn't matter if you don't have enough, you have a food desert. You're suffering from a food desert. It don't matter about all those things. All Ma'at cares about is your choice. The system doesn't adapt itself to support your ignorance. The system is built to show you your ignorance through pain, suffering, and misery so that you can experience those things and rise above them back into harmony, back into abundance. You're functioning within this system that is built upon intelligence. So when it says that there are roughly 40,000 cases of HIV in a particular city, that is all an accumulation of choice. That is all the result of somebody, a bunch of somebodies, a lot of somebodies falling to the things of earth. The practice of sex has become more important, more valuable than the vitality of self. It says, that's why it says also in the scripture, it says, man and woman came into manifestation so that I can experience myself through them. The revelations of Nebuchadnezzar, it says, man and woman came into manifestation so that I could experience myself through them. Knowledge of self. See, when the things of earth become more important than knowledge of self, when the things of earth become more important than the vitality of self, when what you define as wealth, what you place a high value, is the things of earth, then that puts you in a state of ignorance, and that puts you at odds with Maā. And guess what? Your choice is your choice. You have a right to your choice. No question about it. However, you have a right to experience the things and situations of your choice. And that is the very thing that through time, you will seek knowledge of self again once you experience enough pain and suffering. See, my job is simply to help you speed that process up, help you return to peace and prosperity, give you knowledge and understanding so that you can get back on the path to your life success. But see, you have a lot of people defining your reality for you. So yes, through your social media feed, you're inundated with negative things. It becomes a sense of your understanding. It becomes a sense of your knowledge. You are inundated with driving your sense of happiness. You have bought into the American dream, which is being very wealthy. See, the system is, you were never told the true essence of the system. Rama is here to tell you the true essence of the system. That we cannot fall to the things of earth. The things of earth are simply there for my empowerment. I eat for my empowerment. I'm intimate for my empowerment. I communicate for my empowerment. I interact for my empowerment. You see, I had many options as far as who I could marry, but I married a queen. Why? Because I marry for my empowerment. See, you don't want a king. You just simply want somebody to provide you with a lifestyle. Because you don't understand the importance of having a man that can increase you. Why? Because you have been taught and trained to place a high value into things and to get those things by any means necessary, even if it means using sex to get material things versus using sex to empower and invigor. And this is why ancient civilizations had things like Tantra and China had a version of that as well, and even ancient Kemet, because sex has a huge amount of pleasure attached to it because it gives you the greatest ability to increase your vitality and vigor. So we wanted to close on the concept that vitality of self, what is wealth, the highest material asset that you can have in abundance and not harm yourself, not find yourself in misery and suffering, is vitality and vigor. You should always seek to accumulate your vitality and vigor at a high amount because it is your greatest asset. I don't have time to go deeply into the conversation today, but believe it or not, your vitality and vigor is the only thing that you can take into your next lifetime. Oh yes, you're going to come back to earth to continue your experience. No different than once you're done with the 3rd grade, you got to come back and reincarnate to take the 4th grade. You're going to come back to earth to continue your experience. And one of the things that we're able to carry through multiple lives is our vitality and vigor, or the lack thereof. You can be born in sickness, illness, misery, and suffering based on the actions you created in this lifetime. It used to be a time where we drove all the concepts of vitality and vigor. We taught the world how to do yoga. We taught the world how to do these things. But we have fallen to the things of earth. The Greek historian Herodotus said that the ancient Egyptians were the most healthiest people he had ever laid eyes on, because they went through great length to protect their vitality and vigor. So placing your vitality and vigor as the highest expression means that you know that the things of earth are simply there for your empowerment and increase in vitality. You're not trying to possess happiness through things. So then you would know that your relationships are very important. You would know that your children are very important. You would know that your eating habits are very important. You would know that your sexual habits are very important. You wouldn't have a situation where you have close to 40,000 people living in one specific area suffering from HIV. 75% of those people are from one ethnicity. That's because you have fallen to the things of earth. I want to also remind you guys, well, first of all, thanks for being here. I want you to remind you guys to, if you want to watch this in video form, go to our YouTube channel where you can watch that. Also, join us every Sunday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time for you to hear the Maā Sa sermon, where every week we look at the lunar cycle and we present the philosophy to you so you can understand it. And then also every Monday we do a meditation in connection to the Sunday service, every 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you want to just join in and meditate with us and get the energy, feel free to join us on those times as well. And then also make sure, if you want more information about how to be a member with a part of our organization, well, first off, you can go to our website and look at the Maā Sa orientation. But also you can send us an email at info@maasa.org. That's MAA-SA.org. Ucha Saneb Sa Ma'a.